that I did, I started shutting myself off from the world. I quit playing my instrument that I loved. I quit playing the sport that I loved. I quit hanging out with friends because every time I'd go hang out with someone, I'd be so ashamed. I would try to do something and they'd laugh at me. But one day, I remember when I got saved, I remember that the very next day, I felt something of a worth value in my heart. See, something I didn't realize, that Jesus Christ, who was crucified, paid all that debt, paid all that shame for me. You know, you would think that a king was able to be in a throne, that would be able to be placed into a pyramid like the Egyptians did. But no, he was on a cross. He bought all my shame away. And it helped me have a worth value in myself that I can't even explain.
That's the one thing that's held me back my whole life. Every single person in my life that I can remember, my mom, the friends that I had at one point, the lack of a father in my life, guys, they all told me things like I wasn't good enough, I wasn't bold enough, I wasn't thin enough, I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't enough. That's how they made me feel. And as time went on, I believed every single one of those things. Every single thing. And it consumed me. That consumed me. It was all I ever thought about. It just consumed my mind and my thoughts, and I didn't even realize that I dealt with it. I just pushed it to the back of my mind, and I don't understand how I could believe any of those things. And if there's one thing I learned, is that my God is faithful and that He's promised me life, and He's given that to me. He's given me life. He's brought people in my life that have made me feel worth something. Because my whole life, every single bad thing you could ever think about yourself, I've felt before. Every single thing. But He set me free from that. Because every single day I make the conscious choice to believe that my God is faithful and that I have freedom.
Alright, I grew up in church. I was the perfect little kid that had nothing ever going wrong. But at the age of 13, I had certain people come and tell me, you know what, this is okay. Like, it's alright, it's just a part of growing up. And at first, it was cool, and I was down with it, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to do this because I enjoy it. But then later, I couldn't get out of it. No matter what I did, I couldn't get out of it. And this is what it was. That consumed me. And I went to church, and I did all the right things, and I said all the right things, and I prayed to Jesus, and I lift my hands, but inside I was dead because every day I'd go home, and I was addicted to things like masturbation and pornography, and I couldn't get out. And it became a part of who I was, to the point where I just gave up hope. I was like, you know what? This is just going to always be me. I'll never be able to... The best I can do is kind of just shove it away for a little while, but it's going to come back. It's going to come back. There's nothing I can do. And I remember one night, I was just in it again. And I was wallowing in it, and all of a sudden, something snapped in my spirit, and God looked at me and He said, you don't have to live like that anymore. You don't have to be stuck in the sin. There's freedom for you. You don't have to do this anymore. And it wasn't like this one moment and all of a sudden I was just free and like I never struggled with it again. It was something that I had to fight. I had to bring accountability into my life. I had to pray about it. I had to make a conscious decision every day when I woke up that, you know what, God, I'm not going to let this back in my life again. But if there's one thing that I could leave with you guys, especially people that are struggling with that, is that's not who you are. You don't have to live like that anymore, because God is hope, and He'll save you.
Struggled with that one. Yep. Okay, when I was in 8th grade, I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I didn't grow up in a good environment. I grew up hungering for God, but I didn't know how to find Him. And so I started going to youth group in 8th grade, and I started getting filled with truth, and filled with His love, filled with everything. And so God set me on fire for Him, and I would get on highs just through like leading people to the Lord. I would be so joyful, so excited. But that's how I thought God loved me. It's like when God would use me, I'm like, oh, this is so good, this is so good. And then I started getting pride because a revival came through me. So I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like God is using me, and people are giving me attention, and this is just amazing. And I'm so young, and everybody doesn't expect that I could do something like this. So I was getting all this pride, and it just led me to doubting that God really loved me. And my heart is so gross. My heart, I'm doing everything just to get joy from God and then attention from people, and I just doubted who I was in God and that God loved me. And it started growing. My doubt started growing because I went through seasons of where God wasn't using me as much anymore, and I wasn't leading people to the Lord. I was just condemning myself, and I'm like, God doesn't really love me. And then I'm like, where is God? Who is God? Why isn't He here? And I would be like, is He real? Those questions started coming in my head, and I would be on the bathroom floor crying and just, are you real, God? And I would be wanting to die because I could not find an answer. And I would be wrestling with my thoughts day and night, trying to find out the answer if God is real. So as I started growing up, and truth would be important to me, and God was showing Himself to me. He was chasing after me, because this one guy spoke in my life. He says, you think way too much, Frankie. God is trying to reveal Himself to you through dreams and visions. He was chasing after me, but I just wasn't. I had this wall, my mind made this wall up where I couldn't hear God, I couldn't receive anything from Him. I started striving as I grew older. I started striving to get God's love, to get in His presence. During worship, I would do anything to get God's love. I would be crying, I'd be going to someone to pray for, I'd be like, I just want to get in your presence. But I did not know that God's presence is always with me. He's in me. The same power that rose Jesus from the grave is in me. And I did not realize that I'm accepted. No matter what I've done, I was already accepted. And I just need to accept His love, because He paid everything. Why wouldn't His love be enough for me if He died for me? And so I will not doubt God's love for me, and I don't want you guys to doubt that you have to strive. Just accept His grace, accept His love, and don't strive for it anymore.
Mine is inadequate. It's kind of long. So I'm going to tell you a story why I felt not good enough and not able to do what I need to do. And I'll start back when I was 6 months old. I was deathly sick, and I was in the hospital, and they said I was a day away from dying, and my mom had been praying about it and blah, 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 and she's seeking God. And then God's like, meningitis. He has bacterial meningitis. She's like, what's that? And then so she goes to the hospital. She goes to the hospital. She talks to the guy. He's like, yeah, that's it. he says, okay, he has a 50-50 chance